Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I am Sean Kimalewe here in Lagos. Let's begin by letting you know the fears of the Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Sahad Abubakar, who is asking the federal government to regulate the social media. Is saying that the increasing spread of fake news has become a major threat to national peace and stability. He was speaking earlier today at the Northern Traditional Rulers Council General Assembly, which meeting held in Birnin Kebbi, where the Sultan is concerned over the rapid dissemination of misinformation on online platforms. He says that many Nigerians often accept fake narratives as the truth. Take a listen to the Sultan.
Negative comments in the media, especially social media. I think there's need for us to honestly regulate social media because of the negative consequences of this social media. People just sit down in the comfort of their rooms, formulate false stories, and then go viral. And of course, people will believe it, because nowadays you believe anything that you see in the social media. And I think it's a very dangerous thing for us in this country. And I'm glad when even the Minister of Information made a comment like this a couple of days back. I'm glad when the ulama of the northern states met in Kaduna a couple of days back and also came up with such position of regulating social media.
All right, that's the Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Sahad Abubakar, talking about fake news and the danger that it portends for Nigeria. He was speaking earlier today in Birnin Kebbi at the Northern Traditional Rulers Council General Assembly. So much for us to chew tonight. First, we'll be hearing from the coalition opposition party, the ADC. They're speaking about the state of the nation. The fear about what the federal government and the military has said concerning the allegations or the report of some military officers that were arrested, and how the military debunked the issue of a coup, a military coup. We're hearing from the opposition party tonight, but also we'll get some understanding about the legality of the protest and the agitation for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Stay with me, everyone. Let's check out first your political roundup stories.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has charged the Nigerian judiciary to remain steadfast, impartial, and incorruptible in the discharge of its duties, warning that the collapse of any society begins when those entrusted with interpreting its laws become compromised. This was made known in a post on the official X handle of Vice President Kashim Shettima on Monday, following the president's remarks at the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) and National Judicial Institute (NJI) workshop for justices and judges held in Abuja. Represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, President Tinubu said his administration remains committed to improving the welfare and working conditions of judicial officers, noting that recent remuneration reviews form part of broader efforts to strengthen judicial independence. Ahead of the 2027 general election, some members of the New Nigerian People's Party (NNPP) are expressing their disappointment in delayed recognition of the Anebomam-led faction of the party as the legitimate leaders of the party by the former INEC leadership of the Independent Nations Electoral Commission. Addressing the news conference at the party's national headquarters in Abuja, the national secretary of the party, Ogini Sunday, says that the recognition is long overdue following the court's dismissal of the suit filed by members of the Kwankwanso faction in April 2025. Meanwhile, the member of the House of Representatives representing Akpa Agatu Federal Constituency of Benue State, Ojema Ojotu, has defected from the People's Democratic Party (PDP) to the All Progressives Congress (APC). The Deputy Speaker, Benjamin Kalu, announced this on Tuesday while presiding over a plenary session. He read the lawmaker Speaker's defection letter on the floor of the Green Chamber. According to the letter read on the floor by Kalu, the Benue lawmaker linked his decision to leave the PDP on the perennial crisis involving the PDP. The All Progressives Congress APC in Nasarawa State has formally received Senator Ahmed Wadada Aliyu, representing Nasarawa West Senatorial District, into the folds of the party. The senator was received by the APC chairman, Mr. Aliyu Bello, at the party secretariat in Lafia, the state capital. After the formal reception, the party chairman led the senator and his supporters to the government house for an introduction to the leader of the party in the state, Governor Abdullahi Sule. Lastly, Student Welfare Group has called for accountability, fairness and stability in the administration of the Federal University of Oye-Ekiti. The group said universities must uphold transparency and integrity in handling issues that affect their reputation in student welfare. This call was made by Mr. Victor Adetolaju, founder of the Association for Student Social Welfare in Nigeria, during a press briefing in Abuja. He urged the federal government, the National Assembly, and relevant agencies to ensure due process in addressing the development in Foye.
There you have it. You've been served with your political roundup stories. So let's begin, everyone, from a story that got the attention of a lot of Nigerians, and it's the ADC demanding clarification from the federal government over the alleged coup plot. The military had come out to debunk the allegation that the report of some military officers that were arrested. But the African Democratic Congress and the spokesperson is calling on the federal government to immediately clarify the true nature of an alleged coup plot involving arrested military officers. Tonight, we have the National Publicity Secretary of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, Mr. Bolaji Abdullahi, who is live for us in our Abuja studio. Thanks so much, Malam Abdullahi, for joining us tonight. Well, let me begin. You are curious about the situation in the country, and you believe that if that kind of rumor of that kind of story is coming up at all, it causes for worry. The military has said, no, there is no truth in it. There is no iota of truth or fact in what has happened or what people are saying. But yet, you still say Nigerians should be worried about it. Why do you think so?
Well, I mean, thank you very much. The initial report was that arrests have been made of some military officers in relation to attempt to carry out a coup with all details attached. But the military headquarters came out quickly to debunk it. They said there was no such thing, that the people arrested were arrested because they had flunked some examinations and has to do with promotion and all that. But the story continued to grow, and while the story continued to spread and grow, quite significantly, the federal government did not say anything. I mean, allegation of coup is a very, very serious matter. It's something that we thought we have left behind as a country. So when it's coming up, regardless of what, the federal government had a duty to come out to assure Nigerians either to corroborate the submission of the defense headquarters that, fellow Nigerians, there is no such thing. Don't let us be distracted. Our democracy is not under any form of threat. Either they do that, or if they have a contrary information or contrary position, to come out to say, no, defense headquarters is actually not telling the truth. This is the true situation. They didn't say anything either way. And by not saying anything, they allowed the story to continue to fester. Then we saw a subsequent report saying a former governor in one of the states had been arrested in connection to coup that the military headquarters said did not happen. And that story was widely circulated, saying that, as a matter of fact, there are other politicians who have been linked to this attempted coup. As opposition party, that give great cause to concern, because everything is being shrouded in secrecy. So was there an attempted coup or not? If there was an attempted coup, why is the defense headquarters telling us there's no attempted coup? If there was no attempted coup, why is the federal government keeping quiet? Now, by saying that, with that kind of story going around, saying that there are some politicians have been implicated, we got worried. We got worried because we know that this kind of opacity, this kind of lack of transparency creates room, nebulous excuses and pretexts to begin to hunt opposition figures in the country, including leaders of parties like ours. And that was why we say, no, we cannot allow this to continue. The federal government must come out and address this issue and stop pretending as if it's not a very serious matter, and must never allow itself to be coerced opportunity to begin to hunt down opposition. So that's our position on it.
Although the response of the military said as much as that former governor is under surveillance, not arrested. But if the military says this is not true, why do you think the federal government should be speaking? Because if this is just a phantom in the heads of those, according to the military, those who are purveying what is they call disinformation or lie about a possibility of coup, why do you think the federal government should be responding? And in all of this, why do you think we should be worried? Do you think or imagine that in this age and time, in our civilization as a people, that there will be a military takeover? It sounds like a joke, isn't it?
You probably know that because the privileged position that you occupy. Majority of Nigerians don't feel the same way. And the mere rumor of a coup is enough to destabilize markets. It's enough to create panic in societies like ours. So the federal government has a duty of accountability to citizens. I mean, it's good that the defense headquarters said there was no coup, but the story continued to grow. And if the story continued to grow, then the federal government should be concerned as a responsible government to say, look, our defense headquarters has spoken that this did not happen. But the story continued to spread. And we begin to hear even that some civilians were involved and have been under surveillance. What does it mean to say people are under surveillance? Are you saying that the rumor of a coup is from the same source as the story that some politicians are under surveillance? And that's why we said if such stories exist, the federal government has a duty of accountability to citizens to say, this is not true. Because if the defense headquarters is saying that some of our people have been arrested, but they've been arrested because they failed exams, when do people start getting arrested for failing exams? So we are not saying the defense headquarters is telling lie, but we are saying that the federal government has a duty of accountability. The defense headquarters is not responsible to us, it's responsible to their commander-in-chief, which is the president of Nigeria. But the president of Nigeria and the government he leads has a duty of reassuring citizens that no such thing exists. And we know we've lived in this country in the past where phantom coups have been used to hunt people. And we are saying that we are not going to keep quiet and allow this to happen again. It's a past that we must keep in the past decidedly.
Now, so God forbid anything like military coup. During the second term of Obasanjo and in recent past, we've heard about the possibility, and the military comes out to say, no, this is not happening. Is there anything this government should be doing? You have said that it raises concern, and the average citizen, and you've raised the implication of what the rumor alone could be for the market and for the polity. But is there something that the federal government should be doing to ensure that this is not the case, and in fact, that nothing is wrong within the military rank and file? Because those of us who were very much aware of how the military came in and out, and the bloody and the bloodless military coup in the country, and what it meant for civil and democratic rights of citizens, we know the implications of this. But is there something you think that this government should be doing that they are not doing?
Government has access to all information Government has the resources for all intelligence gathering. Government knows better than an average citizen. So if people don't know, and people have to continue to rely on this rumor, and continue, and government is watching this rumor grow among the citizens in a way that begin to heat up the polity. I am saying that as a party, we are insisting that the government has a duty to speak about this. I have no doubt in my mind that if the federal government today says there is no such thing like an attempted coup, I have no doubt in my mind that this rumor will disappear. But keep quiet and allow the rumor to continue to swell, to continue to spread, and to continue to get circulated, and the story actually began to grow from the initial report of saying that some military officers were arrested, which was widely circulated, understandably, to another level of development in the story that says, oh, some other people have been implicated in this. So, and yet, the federal government has kept quiet. I think the government has a duty, what we're saying that the government has a duty to speak to citizens and reassure us there is no such thing. They cannot allow this story to continue to fester. It's a very dangerous story. Nigerians, regardless of imperfections of our democracy, we don't want to return to military rule. So if there is a rumor, even an iota of believability in the rumor, the federal government has a duty to quash it. The military have a way of doing their thing, and most of what they do it in secrecy. But the federal government cannot operate in equal secrecy. It's a democratic government, it has a duty to citizens, and it has a responsibility to explain to us what exactly is going on.
And there are those in government who have criticized the role of the opposition, and they will blame people like you, Malam Abdullah, that you are one of those who are fueling some tension in the land, that opposition is raising issues that are heating up the polity as such, that is making things a bit more uncomfortable. But if there, we know the circumstances around which military persons have come and say, oh, the reasons why the reasons are always the same. The lack of trust, the bad governance, and all of that. Those are the reasons they always give each time there is a military coup. But there are those in government who have criticized people like you in opposition to say, you are heating up the polity for the simple the reason of wanting to take over power from this government. And this government is saying, look, we are taking some of the tough decisions that will make life difficult for citizens, but in the long run, things will get better. Is it possible that there is a balance in politicking and the state of the polity?
Well, if coming out to say that Nigerians are suffering, or saying that the country is being badly run, amounts to heating up the polity, I think, Shehu, you are probably more guilty than myself, or than the opposition party. I've listened to some of your clips. I've listened to some of your narratives, saying that this government is not doing a very good job, which is the right thing to say. So, democracy by its nature promotes dissent. By its very definition, democracy means there is accommodation for alternative views and for multiple perspectives on issues, and that citizens can say what they want to say within the confines of the law. Then when we begin to use national security as a pretext to silence dissent, as a pretext to shut people up, as a pretext to abridge the right that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has granted citizens, then our democracy is in trouble. It means that our democracy is deficient in terms of quality. It means that as citizens, we are not enjoying the benefits that democracy should confer on us. So I'm saying that I don't want us to dwell too much on this issue of whether there was a coup or not. I've said the position of the African Democratic Congress, which is that the government needs to quash this rumor once and for all. So if we continue this conversation along this line that suggests that there could be possible explanation for even any form of threat to our democracy by the military, is to also to continue to give life to that kind of perspective, which I think is wrong. You and I have a duty not to promote that kind of narrative. The most important thing we should stick to is that the government has a duty to reassure us that there is no such threat to our democracy. The work of the opposition is what the opposition is doing. All over the world, what opposition does is to continue to hold government accountable. And that is not more important than the responsibility that the Constitution has granted ordinary citizens to hold government accountable. That does not in any way provide pretext for any unconstitutional takeover of government or even an attempt in that regard.
But what's your view and the view of the ADC and the opposition with respect to the agitation for the federal government to free Nnamdi Kanu, despite the fact that he's still facing trial in the Nigerian court? There was a protest on the street of Nigeria yesterday. What are your views on what happened and how it transpired?
Without prejudice to the material particulars of the case, the right to protest is a democratic right, and that is part of what I was saying earlier. Citizens have the right to protest. If we say we abhor military rule, one of the reasons we abhor military rule is that we want to have the right to protest. We want to have a country where citizens, when they are not happy with government, can march peacefully and show their grievances. That does not mean that government has to listen, but government has to create accommodation for citizens to express their rights to protest. It's the democratic right. The right of protest is guaranteed in our Constitution. The citizens have the right to protest. So what I'm saying in essence is therefore that regardless of without prejudice to the material particular of the case of Nnamdi Kanu, whether it should be released or not, what is topical for us as a party is that under no circumstance should government abridge the right of citizens to protest or threaten the right of citizens to protest.
But is the ADC of the view that the federal government should work on the immediate release of Nnamdi Kanu as being the agitation as being portrayed on the street? And we saw Omoyele Sowore, who is asking for support from other political and opposition leaders like Atiku Abubakar, who also accepted to support. But this also comes on the heels of those who are saying if the federal government can grant clemency and the prerogative of mercy on some Nigerians who are convicted for different crimes, that Nnamdi Kanu should be given that opportunity to go home. What is the view of the opposition and the ADC on this matter?
Well, I must say that, like I said, without prejudice to the material particular of why Nnamdi Kanu is being held, as a party, we've not made a statement on this as a political party. And I don't want to give you my personal view, hence it's been mistaken. But what we are saying is that we are focusing on the right of citizens to demonstrate. The citizens have the right to protest in support or against anything that government does or does not do. That is fundamental, that is sacrosanct. Number two, you made reference to the clemency that the government recently granted some criminals in the name of prerogative of mercy. And like we said in our reaction to that, is the most irresponsible use of the presidential prerogative of mercy. Because when you begin to release hardened criminals, people who have poisoned our society with drugs, drug dealers, people who are on life sentence for violating the laws of Nigeria regarding drug trafficking, and you barely 2 years into their conviction, you release them under the so-called prerogative of mercy. That is very, very unfortunate. The ADC condemns it, And we believe that it's a national embarrassment, and you could see that the government also realized that it has made a mistake. It's beginning to backtrack to say, oh, no, it was just a proposal, we're just thinking about it, and all that. But when you announce that you have granted pardon to criminals, to murderers, to all kinds of criminals, to all kinds of people put away by the law of Nigeria in the interest of the society, and you are bringing them back, and you actually announce that you are granting them pardon, only for the citizens to protest, then you begin to say, oh, actually, and it's consistent in this government. This flip-flopping is consistent. It's become the main characteristics of this government. They move forward today, they move backward tomorrow. They say one thing today, they say another thing tomorrow. So I have no doubt that regardless of what, Kanu has not been convicted, his case is in court, and because the case is in court, I, by my training, know that when a case is in court, you don't begin to talk about it. Be that as it may. He's not convicted. Were he to have been convicted, then we will have rested on the premise on why he cannot be released, why criminals and murderers and drug traffickers have been released. Then that would have been the pretext for the basis for our argument. That's why I said, for me, we are going to stay on safe ground. And that safe ground is to stick to the fundamental that the citizens of Nigeria have the right to protest and have the right to go on the streets of Nigeria to protest. They have the right to go to the National Assembly. The National Assembly is the bastion of democracy in Nigeria. And I'm surprised that they're saying that protesters cannot go to the National Assembly. If they cannot go to the National Assembly, where the representatives of the people are, then where will they go? Where will they go? Citizens have the right to go to the National Assembly and protest and hand letters and petitions to their representatives and say, this is what we demand of you as our representative, and that is what is called democracy. Any democracy that does not allow that is not worthy of that name, and it needs to be re-examined.
Even when the court order, a competent court in Nigeria said there is an order be restricted because of history of what has happened, and you still think that it's not legitimate enough. A competent court has said, do not go there. You don't think that that should be obeyed?
Court says that the protesters should not go where?
Give an order that the some areas within the central part of Abuja, including the National Assembly and the Presidential Villa, are no-go area, and protests should be taken elsewhere in the other parts of the city.
I didn't say people should go to the Presidential Villa, because that has its own implication. And that's why I said the National Assembly. And without prejudice to the power of the court, I don't think the court has the right to take away from citizens the rights that the Constitution, I don't think the court has the power. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think the court has the power to take away the right that has been granted to citizens by the Constitution. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria did not take away the right of expression from citizens, and no court can take that away from them. So that's why we are saying that the citizens have the right to protest. And you see, it's very important that we make excuses for ourselves to say our democracy is young, is nascent. But how do we grow this democracy if it does not accommodate basic democratic practices and basic democratic principles? We all love to go to the United States.
Malam Abdullah, quickly, before we
don't despise them.
Yeah. Quickly before we go, how is the ADC reacting to the appointment of Professor Amopito and the confirmation by the Senate?
Well, I mean, the Senate confirmation is not, with due respect to the National Assembly, we have learned over time that the Senate conversation, especially the Senate, this Senate has declared that whatever the president wants, the president gets. So I think it's just formality that Amopito goes to the Senate to be screened. It's because it's required. That's why it's done. There's no way on earth that he will have been turned back for any reason whatsoever. But what we are saying as a party, he has made promises. We don't have any reason to preempt him, but we know that Nigeria has the right infrastructure and technology for effective, transparent, and dependable electoral process. What is missing is the human factor. And we are hoping that Professor Amukito, with his background and with the kind of thing we hear him say, will actually allow the technology to function in the interest of our election. We are ready. We are ready. We know what is possible, but as opposition party, we are ready.
Abdullahi is a spokesperson of the African Democratic Congress, a coalition of Nigerian opposition political party. Thanks so much indeed for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a break, everyone, but when we return, our attention will be on the legality of the protest seeking for Nnamdi Kanu's release as led by Omoyele Sowore yesterday, getting a lot of Nigerians talking. We'll be getting some insight from a senior advocate of Nigeria, giving you all perspective on what the law says. Was it right or wrong? After this break. Thanks so much, everyone, for staying with us on the program tonight. So we are not done about the conversation, or with the conversation from yesterday, where Omoyele Sowore led a group of Nigerians to the streets of Abuja, and we understand in some other parts of the country there were those who also took to the street to protest, asking for the freedom of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. Now, those who are asking the questions, what the police did in terms of going to court and getting a restraining order or a court order, asking the protesters not to go around some parts of the city, is it right? Can the constitutional right of any citizen be infringed upon by a court decision, no matter how high the court decision may be, because the Constitution is embodiment of the highest laws and is called the Granum for a reason. So tonight we shall be getting some insight into what the law says with respect to what happened yesterday. So tonight I'm being joined by a senior advocate of Nigeria who is live for us in our studio. Thank you so much, Leonard Sikh, for joining us tonight on the program. Give us an understanding. A court order versus the constitutional right of freedom of association to protest. Can that even be tenable at all? Can an ex-party order be given for any citizen not to move around the city of Abuja for what is regarded as the constitutional duty of any citizen? And I know the likes of Femi Falana had gone to court, and there is a position of our court to say no citizen needs the permission of the police, but the protection of the police to protest in the country. Let us see. Make us understand.
Thank you very much, Sheung, and thank you, Nigerians. Good evening. Now, the first thing that I think we need to address is the absoluteness of what we call fundamental human rights, and to answer the question whether those rights are absolute or whether those are rights that are subject or that can be limited by the court. Remember that it is the same Constitution that gives the right that also established the court as the body which has the power to interpret the Constitution. That particular Constitution itself, in Section 278, says every citizen, every authority, every institution, every person must obey a court order. So, the same Constitution in its own Section 45 already created limitation to fundamental rights. Now, in the case at hand, we are talking about the right to freedom of association, freedom of expression. When that right is in conflict with public interest, or when in this case there's a specific pronouncement by a court of law limiting the exercise of the fundamental rights, I think it behoves on any citizen to obey the Constitution, to obey the order of court. If you are not satisfied with the order, the same Constitution gives you the room to approach the court to have the order set aside. But if we say that once we are not satisfied with a court order, we take the laws into our hands and do what we like because we believe that that order, we are not satisfied with it, then we will be going into a banana republic. No nation can survive unless its citizens are intent on protecting its institutions. And the judiciary is the bastion of the common man. So if we say we will only obey court orders when they suit our interests, then we will be wrong. So to go and protest in a particular location where the court has already made an order saying you cannot protest in this and this and this other particular place is wrong.
So the question that I asked is, yes, the Constitution empowers our court to make order which is binding on all citizens to obey. But the question is that there is hierarchy of our laws also. Can a court, which we understand based on the hierarchy of our laws and our judicial system in Nigeria, that there is no, and the Constitution has made it clear, that there is no law or there is no decision that has been taken that will be contrary to the Nigerian Constitution, and that law is invalid as much as the contradiction to the Constitution. So it says, and it makes it clear that the Constitution of Nigeria is higher than anybody of law. So the question is, yes, the court can make pronouncement, but can the court make a pronouncement on a particular aspect of law to the extent of an infringement of the constitutional right of the citizen, of freedom of expression, of freedom of association, of freedom of movement? And the prayers here, if you look at what the Honorable Justice M.G. Umar has declared in that order, saying that the respondents, and in fact those who say what kind of prayers was the federal government praying to the court, saying Omoyele Sowore, as one of the respondents, Sahara Reporter Media Foundation, Take It Back Movement for the Transformation of Nigeria, or any form or organization or any other persons acting either express or implied instruction or any other organization or group with the like intention, unknown persons should not move around the presidential villa, the National Assembly, the First Headquarters, the Court of Appeal, the Eagle Square, the Shehu Shagari Way, pending the hearing of the motion. Is this the kind of law or the kind of order that should be coming from our courts? Lenel Sik.
Thank you very much. I think in the first instance, we must be very careful in the way we speak regarding matters which are before the court. The specific facts that were deposed in the affidavit that must have supported this application is not available for us to analyze on this program. Number two, the opportunity or the issues which were considered, for instance, maybe national security issues or such issues that constitute matters of that may be official secret, that may have been considered, that made it necessary for this application to be made and for the court to grant it and exercise that discretion, is not what we should even be discussing, because the matter is sub judice.
But let us see.
And to now say, one mistake that you have made,
how can you get an ex-party? And for our viewing audience, an ex-party is an order where a party goes before a court and seeks in the absence of the other parties. How can you get an ex-party order to restrict the movement and infringe on the right of a constitutional right of another citizen? Does that sound like a kind of order? And that's why a lot of Nigerians are criticizing some of what comes out of our courts.
Sheung, let me clarify it to you. You are getting it completely mixed up, with due respect. Now, first of all, there is a distinction between hierarchy of laws and the power of the court. Those two should not be merged together in the same pot. Now, when it comes to hierarchy of laws, the Constitution is the ground norm. When it comes to the power of the court is donated its powers by the same Constitution to interpret the Constitution. So, in the realist school of thought, the law is what the court says it is. And to that extent, therefore, even though the court is bound by the Constitution, the court can make orders, even if it curtails the fundamental right of a citizen. Let me give you an example. Every citizen of Nigeria has right to life, has right to liberty, but if you commit a crime, the law gives the power to the court in the Constitution to take away that your right to life or to curtail your liberty, as the case may be. So we must appreciate the distinction between the two. And so to make the statement that the court cannot make an order that infringes on the constitutional right of a citizen, in the first instance, the court is acting in fulfillment of the Constitution. And so what has been done in that case is not an infringement on the right of the citizen, but a limitation in accordance with the Constitution. And so what the court has done is perfectly in line with the law. There's room in the same Constitution, if you are not satisfied with the order, to approach the court to set it aside. So the point I'm making, in summary, is the fact that you are dissatisfied with an order of court is not a reason to come and say, how can the court make this order? Or to begin to bring the court to disrepute. Or to begin to go ahead and disobey the court order simply because you don't agree with the order. That order, once it is made, the law in Nigeria today is this: a court order must be obeyed, even if you do not agree with the order. Even if you believe that the order was wrongly made or made par incuriam, it is to be obeyed until it is set aside. And that's what the law is.
But make us understand, senior advocate, tonight, those that were arrested, and the lawyer, the brother to Nnamdi Kanu, we understand now they have been arraigned and the prosecution will begin by the state. In the eye of morality on one hand, justice on the other hand, has the police done right by the Nigerian citizen? Is the police doing the right thing as far as the law is concerned?
Okay, it depends on the point of view of who is looking at it. Now, let me give you from the perspective of the law and give you information that perhaps Nigerians should be aware of. A case is pending in court, a criminal charge against a defendant. That matter is still pending. In fact, it's coming up on the 23rd. That court, one of the best judges in this country today, I must say, sits almost every day, so long as the parties are ready. That court created a docket that sits in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening to be able to accommodate this trial. And has continued to so sit. The prosecution has closed its case. There was a no-case submission filed. It was overruled. The defendant was called to come and open his trial. And then what does his lawyer do? He goes to the street to begin to protest that the defendant should be released because for whatever reason. Now, the question I want to put to you is this, sir. Would you rather live in a country where the courts are respected, where the jurisdiction of a court of law is revered, or a country where a person is standing trial and then the country should let him go simply because some people have gone to the road to begin to protest? Which country would you rather live in? Because for every point that we try to push there is always a consequence. There's always a consequence.
This court order that we're talking about, although fundamentally there is no ignorance in law, but you can only act on a law that you are aware of. Those people who are arrested, who were not, the court order was gotten ex parte, and it was not served on the parties of some of those people who were said to have been arrested. How can you be prosecuted, or how can you be held liable for a crime or an offense that you are not even aware of or that is not made public? Is it fair on the person that is arrested who does not know whether or not that particular court order exists? Is it fair?
All right. In the first instance, you will recall that court order was made public. Secondly, the court is a public institution. Any citizen is free to approach the court to verify the existence of an order where they are in doubt. Thirdly, when you are arrested, the law is that upon your arrest, you will be informed of the reason for your arrest. I'm not sure these people have said they were not informed. Upon being informed, statements will be taken. And if there's a prima facie case that warrants that you be tried, a charge will be filed against you. And then you have your opportunity for your day in court to defend the charge. So the fact that a person has been charged is not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person has been convicted. Okay? Now, if a court also, I keep repeating, when matters are in court, we should be careful how we deliberate on them. If you are aware that the court has made an order remanding a person, the natural inflow of information that should come to your mind immediately is that an application was made to that court. That application contains an affidavit that disclosed certain facts over which the court exercised discretion, and on that basis, the remand order was made.
All right.
In the Constitution, just like I earlier alluded, anyone who is not satisfied with that order is free to approach the court to seek that, to pray that the court should set it aside. Right. The response to an order of court is not to go and protest.
All right. Give me a moment. We need to take another break, but when we come back, there is a very fundamental legal question I'd like you to answer for us, which is confusing and making a lot of Nigerians have concern about this matter. We'll be right back after this break on that. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us on the program. Our closing moments with Mr. Ugunaya, who is the senior advocate of Nigeria, speaking with us from our Abuja studio. The big question here is that Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, on what premise under our laws can the man be freed or be asked to go home?
Without prejudice to the proceedings, which is presently in court at the moment, if I were representing the gentleman, my approach would be to take the advantage that has been provided by law, present my defense to the best of my ability, take advantage of the right of fair hearing as granted, because I must say that the right is not an absolute right. If a party is given the opportunity to present his case in court and he refuses to present the case and he continues to terrorize the court and inundates the court with frivolous application, the option is there in the law for the court to declare that that person has forfeited the right to defense. Fair hearing is not an absolute right. It's an opportunity for you to do your case. So, the only way when you are facing a criminal trial is that upon the close of the prosecution's case, if you present a no-case submission and the court overrules it, you enter your defense and puncture the case as put forward by the prosecution. The court will then, upon addresses of counsel, come to a decision on the matter. If you are guilty, fine. If the court says you are not guilty, fine. After the conclusion of that case, there is opportunity to go on appeal at two different levels, the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. And, you know, as has recently been touted, there's also the power in Section 175 of the Constitution that is given to the president upon conviction, or if a person were convicted, he can approach the office of the president for the exercise of prerogative of mercy. So there are so many options in the law, but no prerogative of mercy can be exercised in favor of a person who is yet to be convicted or who has pending appeals in court.
Mr. Ayotunde Ogunleye, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. I'm hoping that some of the legal perspectives that you have helped us with tonight on this matter will rest some concern as far as this case is concerned. Thank you so much indeed for your time today.
Sheon, if I may give my final word, it is imperative for every nation for every citizen to respect the institutions of their nation. If we want Nigeria to grow, we must protect and respect our courts. If we do not have functioning institutions, we will not have a functioning nation. Thank you very much for the time.
I appreciate Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Ayotunde Ogunleye, there speaking with us from Abuja. So where that's how we draw the curtains tonight on the program. Thank you so much, everyone, for speaking with us. I'm Sean Okmale from our global headquarters right here in Lagos. God bless Nigeria.